These dismissals have been extended to directors who are public servants and not politicians. This is rather reminiscent of a military takeover and not a peaceful democratic transition. These are certainly worrying times for our democracy. Dr. Bawumia, former vice president and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. He's not alone in taking on President John Mahama for the mass dismissals that have happened in the public sector. Afenyo-Markin, the minority leader, also wrote a 3-page letter to the president, asking the president to reverse the decision so that jobs will be there for these people and their families. Dr. Bawumia made a plea. He was begging the president, so to speak. In the government, there have been suggestions that these last-minute appointments were made to saddle the purse where no budget was made for them. President Mahama says this country is a crime scene in terms of how the economy was managed by the previous administration. Are the justifications tenable for the mass dismissals? Will President Mahama reverse these dismissals? It will interest you to know that out of the 288 forest reserves, a whopping 44 of these forest reserves are under serious attack by illegal miners. That's the declaration by Emmanuel Amakufibua, Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. As many as 44 of Ghana's forest reserves have been taken over by illegal miners. How does this happen? We will look at the Galamsey fight and how well it is doing. Akwatia MP for Akwatia has been convicted by the High Court of contempt of court. There's an arrest warrant for him, so he will face sentencing. In Parliament, he's been appearing, but there are difficulties as far as the Constitution is concerned. So whoever is holding the arrest warrant is not able to enter the chamber and arrest him or go onto the premises and arrest him. He's filed an appeal and he's also seeking to stay execution of the court's decision. How will that pan out? The minority MPs are saying, we told you so. Don't allow yourself to be sworn in because you have been injuncted from doing so, and you defied it. I'm Samson Lardy Anyenini. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. And here is Samson's take. Publish your assets and liabilities. President John Mahama, you have just told your appointees that you expect of them to declare their assets by the end of March. Sounds good, because you have done yours and you expect them to follow suit. The Constitution, however, requires that the assets ought to be declared before assumption of office, not after assumption of office. Yes, I agree, because the law we passed in 1998 made room, said you can declare before and you declare again every 4 years at the end of your tenure. But it gave a grace period of 6 months within which you can do it. The grace period is clearly unlawful in the face of the Constitution, because the Constitution says, declare before you assume office. To the extent that this law still sits on our statute books and has not been declared, as unlawful or inconsistent with the Constitution, or has not been repealed, you cannot be faulted. But the campaign has been for the assets so declared to be verified and to be publicized. How sad that in 1992, a PNDC law allowed for the assets to be verified and for publication of same. The PNDC military regime that was beginning to reform itself allowed for the publication of the assets that public officers, declare. In a democracy, we can't do this one thing that was done in a military regime. The assets so declared must be verified and they must be publicized. In Senegal, the young man just took office without any compulsion. He declared his assets and published them. He said, I have 2 houses, I have 2 cars. What is it about the asset declaration that we need 6 months grace period within which to do after we have assumed office? What is it? Is it that you guys in political office, in public office, you have so much, you have a world of wealth that it will take you 6 months to write them down on a piece of paper and to show to the Auditor General that this is what you have? Those of you who have just gone into office, what is the big deal? If you have a house, you can't put that on paper that I have a house. You need 6 months to do that. If you have a car, you can't put on a piece of paper that you have a car. You can't do that within minutes before you assume office. We must give you 6 months grace period to do that. It is very clear that the 6 months grace period on constitutional insertion by Parliament in 1998 was intended for you, the politicians, or those of you who must declare your assets, to find time, settle in, and plan how to steal and put them in the declaration, because nobody is going to open it up. And once you are done, you would have stolen and get away with it. Again, Mr. President, this is not just your asset you are supposed to declare. It's your assets and liabilities. People owe, taking loans and so on and so forth. It ought to be stated in there. It's a no-brainer that this ought to be done. In 2020, 2021, Occupy Ghana, part of this campaign, wrote to the Attorney General because Occupy Ghana planned to sue. The Attorney General agreed that the insertion of the 6 months grace period is unconstitutional and that steps were being taken to reverse it. Gloria Efua-Akufo agreed that this was unconstitutional. What is the big deal? I don't understand. Please, don't only declare your assets, declare your liabilities, let them be verified, and let them be published. The conduct of public officers bill, one has sat in Parliament almost 2 decades without any attention. A new one that was tied to the IMF process has also not been passed. What are you guys afraid of? You want to be in public office? You don't want us to know your asset so you can steal? And that is my take. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My guest in the studio, Rodelyn Imoro Ayana. She is a public interest advocate, has been associated with the Movement for Change. And I'm sure for those of you who have been hooked onto this program for decades, you know that she's not new to this platform. Thank you very much for making time to join us.
Good to be here.
Great.
Again.
Great to have you.
Morning.
We will have Dr. Theo Echampong, economist and political risk analyst, join us, as usual, from his base in the United Kingdom, where he teaches. Kingsley Amwakwa Bwedu is legal practitioner and member Legal Directorate of the New Patriotic Party. This will be his first time on Newsfile. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you.
Right.
Good morning to my
Samson,
fellow panelists.
We also have here in the studio Sampi Yale. He's a lawyer. He's president, Professional Forum of the NDC. Formerly, he was ambassador, and he was also the head of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, correct? Thank you for making time to join us. Right.
Can I make a correction?
Please go
As a
ahead.
member of the Alliance for Revolutionary Change.
Alliance for Revolutionary Change that joined the
Teamed up to support the movement.
The Movement for Change. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that clarification. Right. So let's begin with the very thorny matter of the mass dismissals that have happened in the public sector. You remember that the Chief of Staff issued a letter, and in that letter, he had been instructed to ask all heads of institutions to ensure that persons who were recruited after the 7th, after the 7th of December, was it, should not be allowed to continue in office or to continue their employment. And in consequence to that, you have seen one letter or the other from these public institutions almost every day announcing that all those who have been employed will not be able to be kept. There has been a backlash, but does the government see it that way? So let's begin with Rodelyn. First, you have heard Dr. Bawumia, and we'll be scrolling the comments that Dr. Bawumia has made over the period to you. It's a long letter he wrote to the president, making an appeal to the president to rescind his decision because many people are losing their livelihoods because of that, and it is just not fair. Then Afenyo-Markin, the minority leader, also wrote a 3-page letter to the president asking him to reverse the decision because he doesn't think that allowing those people to go to court will be the best approach because the court process can delay and it may take the whole of the term of the president before the matter will be resolved. Yes, Rodelyn.
Good morning to our viewers. Samson, I will say that as a Ghanaian, in my opinion, I would have said that, well, those who were employed are Ghanaians. But looking at the situation and the historical nature that we have when it comes to government change, I don't think that it's unjustifiable, so to speak, because at the end of the day, you ask yourself why a government that was leaving should want to pad agencies with people when it had 8 years to do so and didn't do so. Afenyo-Markin and the rest of them are saying that it is not a constitutional thing to do so, that one had to use discretionary powers justifiably and all that. But I am of the view that if you're a government in power for 8 years, you've not been able to create enabling environment for people to get jobs. You've not created the jobs yourself for them to also get into. All that you've done is virtually padding security agencies, creating avenues that did not produce anything, so to speak. Then one starts to ask why you would want to pad when you're leaving, bearing in mind that the situation on the ground is that we don't have the resources, we are broke, and how can a broke country take in so many people? From what I was hearing from the government spokesperson, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, he came out with certain issues that some of them did not even apply. They didn't have any application letters. Some didn't go through the process. Some of them were backdated. These are all acts of criminality. And you cannot...
Hold on. The president actually says that Ghana is a crime scene because of how the economy has been managed, the things he's seeing. But she just referred to Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Let's hear Felix.
But in terms of the substance of the petition, I think we've explained this. That when the transition process began, we noticed these speedy, hurriedly arranged, often highly irregular recruitments into various public agencies. We raised the issue. Indeed, on the very first day of the joint transition meeting, we raised the issue. And you recall that after the meeting, I addressed the media and pointed out that we have this serious concern about the manner in which these appointments are being done. We had asked for some dialogue and engagement between our side and the outgoing government side to have an understanding of what exactly is happening. We also thought that because a new government was coming in, it was important that certain decisions are reserved for them to take. Whilst it is true that the tenure of the previous government ended on 6th January, it is also true that it was the incoming government that was going to bear the brunt in terms of remuneration and finding the money to pay these people. So surely they must have a say in how this is done. We requested for meetings, we requested for explanations. We said that they should at least hold on pending some consultation on the matter. They rebuffed it and said that they had the power to do so. And you recall that on 17 December 2024, I issued a statement on behalf of the NDC side of the transition team and indicated that given the frustration we had faced from government and its unwillingness to engage on the matter, and our knowledge of the irregularities that afflict the recruitments going on, we were going to be left with no option than to reverse those decisions pending further inquiry and any other actions that may be taken going forward. So it's not like this has come as a surprise to anybody. We were very clear on our position on the matter. So
you just said him.
So it just goes to buttress the point that there are some irregularities where some of these people, their appointments are concerned. And as such, as a government, and coming into a situation where you find yourself in a broke country and being saddled with this number of people that you have to cater for, it is just right for you to say, look, let's have a look at the way this thing is done. And from what I read, it's like, yes, you can leave, but when the portals are opened, you can reapply. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, is fair deal for everybody. Because we're in this country and we heard so many things. Even after this elections and all, we are hearing of people having to pay monies to be given positions or to be employed. Now, the whole thing is it that they had the qualifications and they paid the monies and were employed? Or is it that some of them were just given jobs because people took monies to fix them in certain areas? So I am of the view that what the revocation is going to do is to streamline the posting or employment of every Ghanaian. What I know is that when there are vacancies in the public service, it is advertised for everyone to have the opportunity to at least apply for. If you do well, you go for an interview, you follow all the procedures and all that. Did they follow due process? Did they ask for financial clearance? All these things we need to know. And at the end of it, were there emergencies? Was it such that it couldn't wait for the next government to take charge and make sure that at least it was on a sound footing to be able to employ those people?
In the public sector, we know that there would have been financial clearance first, and this will be a process, not a day's event. So it's most likely that most of these recruitments, the process would have started long before the elections.
Okay, so granted that maybe it was started long before the elections. Couldn't it have been passed on to the new government? Because there's no rush in that. If you have taken people and you feel that they are qualified for the jobs that you have posted them to, you should be able to give that list to the next government to deal with. Because after all, they are going to be the ones to pay the workers. The remuneration and everything is going to come through them. So I think that the MPP has no case in this situation. We saw what happened in 2017. I think a bunch of people were in military training and they were all sacked. They were actually going through training. And so many other things, so many other people lost their jobs. So at the end of it, these are political positions, most of them. Political positions. And once a change of government comes, yes, you have to go. And when it comes to the other positions within the public sector, one would say that it is always good for one to take one's time, at least make sure that you're getting the right caliber of people. We cannot go and employ probably nurses who have not gone through the system. We cannot go and employ teachers who probably haven't gone through the system just because they have come out. There's so many stories of malfeasance going around because of job selections and stuff. And for me, teaching and nursing are very critical professions in this country. Not too long ago, we heard the president of the Ghana Medical Association complaining about the number of lawsuits that they are having to deal with because of negligence on the part of certain medical personnel. Nurses come under that as well. So it will be just fair that you give them the opportunity to look through and interview these people. They should reapply and just make sure that they are qualified to look after us. That is the main thing. And when you come to teaching, the teachers are the ones that will nurture our young ones and our future generations. We have problems with people telling about drunken teachers, teachers who don't go to work, teachers who do not qualify. They cannot, even they themselves, express themselves, let alone teach our young ones. So in all these things, I think that as a country, we should accept the fact that there is need to look through this revocation. There's need for us to ask them to step aside and to reapply when the portals are opened.
Interesting. Ambassador.
Ordinarily, I would argue that every Ghanaian has a right to employment, as enshrined in the Constitution. However, employment, like you said, is not an event, it's a process. You have to go through a certain... I must say this issue we are dealing with is not new. And none of us have sat down to look at the reasons why this keep on coming and we don't find solution to it. You see, some time ago, I think that now we'll remember that we had Apollo 568, where almost 600 public servants, civil servants were dismissed in this country. They went to court and the court ruled that they should be reinstated. And then our then Prime Minister said, no court can force an employer to work with an employee. So the labor maxim became, no court can force an employee also to work with an employer, vice versa. The historical accounts are many.
The employment contract is not one of servitude. It's not one of master and servant.
Servants, yes.
So the same way that the employee has a right to get up one day and decide that I'm not interested in this job, they can go away.
Yes.
The same way the employer too can terminate, but they will do that within the confines of the contract of employment and the law.
That's what I'm coming to. You see, I was talking about a certain problem that we have not addressed. When we went to the Constitutive Assembly and we wrote the Constitution, we were so happy trying to do what we called a fusion of the executive type of governance and also the Westminster type of governance. You know, the executive type is what is happening in America now. As soon as a new president comes, all the old top guys also go away and he appoints new people. Then in Britain, the situation is a bit different. This is something that we have to understand as a country that is a challenge. Because every time there's a change, this upheavals in the civil service comes up. I have listened to various arguments in relation to this particular issue. And I want to accept your situation that the outgoing government was put on notice at the transitional period, the team that said, you are doing these recruitments. And you see, recruitments are not by themselves the end. They have to be paid. And therefore, an incoming government would have to budget for whatever expenditure it has to take up. We also have not forgotten the famous single spine, which was almost thrust on Professor Mills, and that disorganized our labor cost in this country. So when an incoming government has not budgeted, it becomes a bit difficult for you to come and see this number of new employees, even more than the old employees in place. The incoming government has a duty to do strategic appointments. He finds that Samson will be good as my Attorney General. Then he puts it there. For a good reason, they do such strategic appointments. Now, if the incoming president comes to see that instead of his desire to put Samson Yale is there. You see what I'm talking about? That becomes a little bit of a problem. As for Dr. Bawumia's epistles, I'm used to it.
Just one epistle.
Just one,
and he says he's constrained because he had promised himself that he would give the president time so he would settle in and begin the business of government. But this one, he feels he must say something. Right. And please note, he titled it Appeal.
Yes, I'm coming to that, Samson. I'm saying that I'm used to it because I've listened to him several times and he's coming out with opinions, some very legitimate, some political. Now, Dr. Bawumia, you were the vice president for this country for 8 years. And the people that you had recruited and fostered on the new government, what prevented you from recruiting them, employing them during the 8 years? The appeal, you see, as an appeal, this is accepted or not accepted. But I think the appeal is very, very unfounded in the sense that if you, as the vice president, did not appeal to your president then to do such recruitment, I don't think it lies well in your mouth to assume the role to be doing this appeal to a new president. Besides that, Samson, I have heard some argument that, you say you are going to do 24-hour economy and recruit more people. But did we say that we are going to do 24-hour economy and therefore somebody should do our appointment for us? We have our own strategy and how we are going to manage this country.
Government.
Come again?
The government is a continuum.
I understand. But
and the people who have been employed, recruited, are Ghanaians.
I understand.
So what's the problem?
The problem is that if you have not been appointed properly, you cannot be there, just defend yourself that I'm a Ghanaian and therefore I should be there. For example, I'm over 60 years, and if I'm found as a CEO of an organization just because I'm a Ghanaian, I have seen a video or a picture of some immigration officers or some prison officers of some people shorter than the requirement of the police service. I've seen them, very short. Some are, very old people.
That's not what we are talking about here, are we?
Yes.
Because there is no investigation that has been conducted to show that these people were improperly recruited and that any regulations or rules or laws were breached in their recruitment.
Samson, the best thing to do is to halt the process and do an investigation. I heard my very good friends, Ofosu Kwache, saying that
Kwache
Ofosu, the portal will be reopened for people to now apply or reapply. And if you qualify by the standard that the government will set, you'll be readmitted.
It is state funds that were used for the process. The state funds have to be used again. That's waste. That's like causing financial loss. If the people you are throwing away, you will need the same number of people, and those people have the opportunity to come back.
That is to say that we will need the same number and the same type of people. If we will not need the same short people in our police services, if we will not need the same overaged persons in our services, it cannot be the same number. You understand? So I want every Ghanaian to be given a fair chance to work, no matter...
Shouldn't you join Bawumia sincerely to appeal to the president to withdraw, ask Julius Deborah to withdraw this letter and have these people go back? And for those that specifically there is evidence that wrongdoing has been done, they go through the process within the organization. You say Bawumia was vice president. Is it, you should know governance, a lot better than I would do, that the president will not know that this institution is making appointment, this institution is making recruitment. The president will not know all of that. The vice president will not know all of that.
Then there was a problem. Because periodically, the president had to be briefed on labor market statistics and everything. So if the president didn't know this was going on, then we had a problem, So I would want to end by saying that this is not a closed book. The presidency has said that. I think this announcement was made on the very same day they announced the termination, that there's a chance for anybody who thinks he's qualified to apply. And in the discussions, I have not heard that anybody who's an NDC person, who's not an NDC person, should not apply. So anybody who is qualified will be admitted and sent back.
But we know what happens in this country. How the processes most likely will be skewed towards benefiting a particular class because they are within the NDC.
We have sworn by the president out of office to reset this country. And I'm telling you, Samson, you are here. We'll come back to this program again.
The reset should begin with not terminating people who have gone through due process and have been employed.
That is if they went through due process. That is if they went through...
The presumption should be that they went through due process. That should be the first presumption.
But if there's evidence that there are areas where they didn't go...
Have you seen any such evidence?
Of course, the government will not be that naive to just throw people out. No, the government, there should have been some evidence. And even me, from outside, I am seeing that there's evidence, and my sister was right in saying that people were collecting monies.
Those allegations, we have seen them flying on social media, but there's no proof to any one of them yet.
Remember, there was an inquiry in the police service itself about recruitment.
The OSP is investigating that.
Yes, so it is not just allegation, but if even allegation, it has some grounding. That should cause the OSP to do that.
Let me show you this. I'm projecting something John Mahama in opposition said. That's just how many months after he left office. What he put on X, at the time say Twitter, what he put on the May of 26, 2017. This is his handle. It says, bad precedents for our governance. Mass sacking of workers by the MPP government unacceptable. Hashtag One Ghana, hashtag One People. Then he followed up with another one. These workers are all citizens and like all Ghanaians have rights which must be protected. The same hashtag One Ghana, hashtag One People. What changed?
I totally agree with that. The people John Mahama was not talking about are not in the same class of these people who were just lumped after the government has lost power. What John Mahama was talking about was the persons that have been in government for over 4 years. That all of a sudden, I saw a post that about 30,000 workers have been dismissed. So what we're saying is that, listen, you claim to have been employed through a certain process. We don't even have the budget. We are coming to read our very first budget. And you know that these people have not even been put on the payroll. From what I heard, they have not even been put on the payroll. So it becomes an encumbrance on the new government.
That's not entirely accurate because some of them, the letters from their individual institutions revoking their appointment on the back of Julius Debra's letter says they will be paid January and February salaries.
Yes.
So they were on the payroll.
It means that January and February, they were not on the payroll. It means that January and February, they are not on the payroll. If they were on the payroll, they should have been paid. You understand what I'm saying? They should have been paid. But I think that in trying to address this problem, it should not be another trouble of Ghana becoming a victim of politicization.
Are you able to sit back and look at this situation and say, it's been happening, as you said, but John Mahama should look beyond that and say, in my term, I'm resetting Ghana. The reset includes avoiding the political retaliation, which is unhealthy for our people. So let these people stay at their places of work. If there are a handful of them who may have been smuggled in the process, allow the various institutions to go through their own processes and remove them.
Samson, I like your choice of words. It's not that it's a political retaliation. It's not. We are not saying that persons who have been in employment for a long time in the civil service are going to be dismissed. This is a targeted group of those who were recruited after the elections, and who people have not been given appointment letters, but have not even been cleared for payment.
Well, some PLA, sorry. I'm going to show you a couple of those letters from the individual institutions.
Yes.
On the back of the Julius Debra, letter. And you see that there is a good number of them who were actually employed long before December 7.
And paid.
They were employed long before December 7, and yet they have been affected. So I'm projecting a number of them for you to see from a couple of institutions. And the first one I'm projecting is dated the 2nd of December, 2024. It's from the GRA, offer of appointment. This is to an individual. Offer of appointment, please. We are pleased to inform you that following your success in the recruitment process, you have been offered a permanent appointment as an assistant revenue officer with the Ghana Revenue Authority. This appointment takes effect from 18th of December 2024. Then they give the salary scale and everything. This person was issued the appointment letter on the 2nd of December. We had not gone to elections. And then on the 13th of February 2025, the appointment is being revoked. And I have checked. Groups, reputable groups like KPMG, did the recruitment process for the people at the GRA. Reputable, corporate organizations did the recruitment exercise. And it took a long period, more than 6 months.
As we are saying the same thing. The baseline is this. Those who have been properly recruited have not been locked out. They said, we would open the portal. We as a government, we reserve the right to also investigate some of those things. We have come to the realization that some of these appointments have even been backdated. Have been backdated. I don't think that the John Mahama we know is so vicious that a person who has been properly employed and gone through the system would not be listened to. But where you have intentionally loaded organizations that should be sacrosanct, like our security. I am very worried about the politicization of our security institutions. Now I'm hearing NDC police and NPP police. I'm hearing NDC soldiers and NPP soldiers. This is something all of us need to kill. In the bud, we have to kill it. Because, see, I want to be employed on my own strength, that I qualify for the job I'm going to be employed. I don't think that I want to be employed just because I am a politician. Or my son should be employed because the father is a politician. My son, that is why everybody has a duty to train his children for the future. But if I am being employed, or my son is being employed, just on the basis that some people is a politician, I have everything wrong with that.
Do you realize that some of the teachers and nurses who were also employed are complaining? Some of them say we are NDC members, we are NDC activists, and we got employed as nurses and because we are qualified. And you have done this to us. It's unfair. And you know how difficult it is to go through a job recruitment process in this country.
Yeah, the matter speaks for itself.
There's no guarantee that they will get it.
The matter speaks for itself that even NDC people had been affected. So it means that there's no political victimization. Like my sister said, you need a person of a certain caliber to be teaching children. You saw the adverts on the South African college university that if you want to destroy a country, destroy the education. And that is where you are going to have architects who will develop a house and it will collapse. Nursing and teaching, we don't value them most. But Samson, if we paid attention properly to our teaching professions and nursing professions, this country would be the better for it. No, if a nurse is a nurse, I don't want to walk into a hospital and be rudely treated. It's because the person knows Sampi as a politician. I don't want to go to any hospital and be given preferential treatment because somebody saw me. No, I want to go to a hospital like an Indian hospital. Nobody knows who am I. And I am. But then they give me the best of service because I'm paying for it. But here, teachers in some villages, 1 week, they have attended school once. That's not all the teachers do. Nurses, they will not be punctual. And so we want to reset this country. And I want to go by the assurance given by the government that all those who were employed properly will be readmitted.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by properly. Either some of these are going through Public Services Commission process.
Yes.
Are you saying the Public Services Commission doesn't know how to do the right things?
Today, as I'm talking to you now, there is a certain these discussions going on between the government and the Public Service Commission. I know of Minister of Interior has set a committee to review all the appointments and see whether they were regularly made. Not to say properly, but regularly made, if you understand. I also know that the Ministry for Employment and Jobs is also doing some work. Samson, the new NDC will not do anything that would send this country backwards. We are determined to make sure that everything that we do inures to the benefit of this country. That is our...
There's the expectation that elderly people like yourself, elder statespeople like yourself within the NDC will be nudging the president and say, don't do this. It's not good for the country.
Yes, we are doing that. But we will not advise the president that where there's a glaring irregularity, we will advise the president to...
So this ritual must continue. Whenever there is a change in government, people must lose their jobs because they are suspected to belong to the previous regime that lost power.
You yourself have said some NDC nurses have been affected. Yesterday, somebody came to me, somebody who I know to be a strong NDC person, has been removed from office. And I'm an NDC person. I said, that's not the reason why I should go to talk about you or for you. How were you employed? When were you employed? So these are the issues that we are talking about. But the basic point that should not be forgotten is that we have seen irregularities in this and we want to rectify them and give the people who actually qualify to be in our strategic employment.
Let me hear from Kingsley, then I'll go to Dr. Theo Echampong. And Kingsley, there's a reason I spent a bit of time with him because his government is in power. Normally, the party representatives will say, give me the same time. It's not exactly the same. So you go on. Let's hear you.
Well, I thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Good morning to viewers and listeners. I am saddened. I am saddened by this. And, well, it's good you were asking me those questions because those were my concerns. And then every question you asked was something I was going to talk about. Are we hearing here that they were padded when leaving the office? How did we come to that conclusion? It's a public service. Some of them are civil servants. You have to go through a process. At the interview, Public Service Commission was there. They would have to proffer their certificates. Some of them, you have to go to their institutions to confirm. Some of them have to go through their CV and confirm several other things before you conclude on that. And it's not just an individual. So how are we saying that they were just padded? And indeed, I heard here that for the 8 years, there was no recruitment, really. For the 8 years, there's no recruitment, really. It so happened that these recruitments occurred at the tail end. That's not to say that for the whole 8 years there was no recruitment. Let's be fair to all the facts here. Again, as I said, you commence the process, you go through it, and then you wait for financial clearance because the budget for 2004 has its period where it will end, because the public service, it doesn't include this fresh recruitment. So you have to wait for that as well. So you could not have employed anyone without financial clearance. Having gone through all that, the government now is saying that we don't have money. Is that good cause? It is not good cause. And in fact, we discussing it, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, which is hurt by this, we are discussing them. Only for my learned senior brother to now say that we haven't said that NDC members cannot reapply. Now went to say that even NDC members were affected.
I brought that to his attention.
And I was going to ask that question.
He also confirmed that another
lady, yes. Are we talking party colors here? We're talking Ghanaians here. For you to make it, to bring that, it means that it confirms that earlier, before the election, confirms, and I have a lot of them here, MPP is recruiting people into security agencies. He talked about that, didn't he not? Into the security agencies, to which Honorable Henry Kote came to debunk that. Up to now, where's the proof for that? There's no proof.
Oh, but we heard Afenyo-Markin at the vetting say that they actually give them protocol appointments.
Yeah, but then did he say to MPP alone?
Now we know that Henry Korte was being untruthful.
But did he say that to MPP alone? That's the issue.
No, to everybody.
To everyone. So to say MPP, that Henry Korte is not telling a lie.
Okay.
Now, and I'm being worked up. I normally don't talk like this, but I'm being worked up because you see, you asked about the cycle. Should a cycle continue? And you said that senior citizens, like my learned senior brother, should be the one that we say he's doing it, and the but really does not sit well because you see, when someone has gone through the process and you're looking at it politically to target him, then you target your own folk, and that's what happened. That's why the leader approached you. And we all saw when after a change of government, people were rushing to institutions to say they should leave. There are videos. They should leave. And they've been here for too long. Their people too should also come. And this is a government institution. We are coming, we are going to 2025, we are going further. We shouldn't now we are making reference to 69, the no courts that the Prime Minister, how many years? 40, no, how many, 60 years? Come on. Let's be fair to Ghana. Your government said you are resetting. Is that a resetting? Now, I'm glad you talked about just when they're about to leave. We all know that the term of the government ends on the midnight of the 6th of January. To say that there cannot be any recruitment is also to say that then there can't be any other job done. There can't be anything. The government ceases on the 7th. In fact, the elections was announced on the 9th, isn't it? So why the 7th? This is the same government. You just read the statement of President Mahama, which says that they are all Ghanaian. Why is it all of a sudden the tongue has changed into what we are seeing now? And then you're saying that it is only affecting those who are appointed or appointed from the 7th onwards. You just read documents. I have the concern of Mr. Techi Mensah. He sent me here. I've asked the producer to send it to you. Where he's appointed
to the
MPRA, 26 July 2023. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? 2023. This is what he's saying.
He said MPRA.
Yes.
Yes.
I went through the due process to be recruited, went through Public Service Commission interview, served probation period for 6 months, confirmed full-time, full staff, 2014. That's right, 2024. What, and then he had because, you see, it brings all those political things. We all know Mr. Techi Mensah was involved in the Achikwesi case, all right? So it brings all of that. And where are we going to draw a line? You are saying that all those who were employed after the 7th of January, of December. So now you are saying that everyone who's employed after that, because we suspect that some of them, their days were backdated, because we suspect that some of them didn't go through the due process, because we have some allegations. Therefore, everyone, that is capriciousness. That offends against the Constitution. Not just a law in here. The Constitution. Article 23 is clear. That's unfair. So everyone, why? If you really have proof that certain persons have not gone through the due process, bring that out. And then let them go through the due process. To say that they can reapply. So I haven't done anything wrong. By virtue of the fact that my date occurred on this day, having gone through the due process, it's revoked. I must reapply and I'll be allowed in.
As I'm mentioning to him, it's not even, the categories that go through Public Services Commission.
Yeah.
There are others that, like the GRA,
yes, like Ezen Bank.
Let's say KPMG, or was it a Pricewaterhouse? They did that kind of recruitment over a long period.
Like Ezen Bank. There's another.
Well, and you also state what is supposed to be the fact and the procedure, which Ambassador was sort of trying to deny. That unless there is financial clearance, the recruitment will not be done. The employment will not be consummated. So for all these people, there was financial clearance. So the suggestion that
evidence of that.
You see, you have to.
That.
Okay, that would be the presumption.
There's a presumption shown. Exactly. The presumption rather is the norm until the contrary is shown. Not that I am alleging that you have to come and prove yourself. That's not how we do. You know that. That's not how we do things. The presumption rather is the norm. I don't want to go to quote this Latin presumptive whatnot. We all do use that. And we're talking about the government institution. So there's a regularity that they've gone through the whole thing. It is you rather who would have to single this person out and say, you, Mr. A, B, or C, you didn't go through this, and so therefore that. But to say that we are drawing a line, everyone, we have to start afresh. That's illegal. That's against the person's constitutional right.
And even
to realize himself and that.
Even at law, if the individual is said not to have gone through a process, they will not be expected to have known that that process is what they should go through.
I was about to come to that.
Once the entity that employed them. I
was about to come to that. But let's say that notice was given to the government.
I'm getting
individuals.
I'm getting fresh, letters. Someone who was employed to the NHIS in August of 2024 also has got his appointment terminated. So
it is sad. You see, it is sad. You see, again, you are saying that Malaysia is saying that we are touching on 24-hour. I think it's legitimate. You are saying that for every position there will be two in addition, so that everyone gets a job, so that we build the economy. Why is it that you will take those who are already in there away from the job bank? Why would you do that? When you are championing the cause of, that is why the people voted for you. And I am saddened by this in a way because, in another way, I'm thinking NDC is unraveling itself, its defectiveness very quickly, and probably, and also a benefit, you see, because there's no government that I know of that has come into power, and then within 2 months of it coming to power, there's a strike. I haven't seen it. This government. And what was said at President Mahama's inauguration?
What strike are you referring to?
The clock strike.
Because somebody has been appointed as registrar to the birth and death, and they disagree that the person is politically exposed.
Exactly. And there's a Supreme Court case that says that when you are politically exposed.
Do you really think they will make a good point? If it's about people who are politically exposed,
I am saying,
among themselves, they say that they are not politically exposed.
I am saying that. No government that has come into power within the first 2 months, even as a communicator, I have said on other platforms that I'm giving NDC 6 months. And some of the appointments, I even commended that to the charging of my people, my own Dominic Ayine. I work with Dominic Ayine. I said this for the team that President Mahama has. This is the best person you can have for Attorney General. They stretch it to, I probably meant the fourth Republic. We've had Obeda somewhere and all, Matalamedu and all. So I couldn't have said that. But even that, because I seem to be conciliatory to NDC, I have said that. But their father is okayed, whether or not they're able to make their case or not. Their father is okayed. And he's unraveling himself too quickly. Now you have a whole bunch of people, a lot of them. Oh, thank you. You've displayed that on because I had his blessings to do this. All right. And you have all of them now affected by this. Are we going forward or backwards? Are we still going to 69? Or I don't know, when was that case? That's Saleh's case, isn't it? Saleh Attorney General's case. And say that because of that, in 60 years, we should still stick with this. Let's not do this. The same government appointed Auditor General. The same government appointed Suraj. That was way after the elections. We did not come to remove them. We made noise about it, that because it's a constitutional position, you should have waited. But they had their right to do that. And nobody attempted to remove them just on the basis that the person was appointed at such a time.
What do you say to the NDC when they tell you that that you are most guilty and you are, like I put it, you may be said to be unfit to cast the first stone. Because the things you are complaining about, perhaps you did worse. What do you say to them?
West.
The worst, which one? The Auditor General?
No.
The Sraj?
No, when you,
So
when you came into office, the people you also threw away.
80,000.
Based
that's the question you're asking.
on the fact that they were appointed from the 7th of January. No. You see, we always have to look at Ghana first.
But you, the politicians, don't do that.
He was looking at Gold Coast.
Wow.
We always look for Ghana first.
You are looking for Gold Coast.
Okay.
first.
Have you been able to convince yourself first, convince the people of Ghana that these withdrawals are proper? I think that's the topic.
But you did the same.
Yeah. Are you now saying by this question? Are you now saying that if, assuming without admitting that was the case, that clothes you with the right to do what you are doing now?
Exactly not.
Precisely. And that's the focus of the discussion.
But I'm saying that's what they are telling you.
Yeah, but you can say whatever you want to say.
You
right?
don't have the moral right.
We do
to
have the moral
pontificate
right.
as you do. And I was looking at something really very interesting. In Afenyo-Markin's letter, guess what? The case is using to persuade the president is the case that CDD put up a coalition to fight against the removal from office by President Akufo-Addo. He was using the Daniel Yao Domelevo case to persuade the president that the Supreme Court said it is wrong to do these things. And I even also suggested that there was this case of the Theophilus Donko, which Edugita Tamaklo conducted.
Yes.
Another way, unlawful removal of people perceived to be NDC from office.
But go back to some of the case at the Bank of Ghana. Go back to that stage.
I have said a number of times.
To see that it is not peculiar to one government.
No, and those are high office people.
Precisely.
But I'm making the point to you that...
the argument even made here seem to fuse the fact that some are political appointees and whatnot to public service appointees. It is fused. The argument being made here.
There is the recruitment issue also. And in that area, I have pointed to the fact that I have actually been a lawyer in some of these cases where the NPP, first, the NDC came into office, and then there were people who had been recruited. They just drove them away. I had to go represent them. Then...
When you represented them, what was the outcome?
The outcome was a positive outcome.
Precisely. So I think that is the focus.
The NPP managed to get back into power. They repeated the same thing. Also drove out the people they suspected to be NDC. I had to go and represent them again.
And the outcome was?
Leading members of the NPP.
It was a good outcome because that is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, precisely. So why don't we focus on that? Why, if we are really resetting Ghana, why don't we focus on that? The fact that the right thing has to be done. You cannot say that everyone appointed from the 7th of January onwards, when even you were declared the president, 2 days or so after that. You cannot say that everyone appointed on that day is a pardon, and therefore everyone should go reapply because we suspect.
In one case,
that cannot be.
In one case, we through an injunction process stopped the state institution from removing those people unlawfully. After a long period, when the case was dragging, as is normally the situation around, sometimes they constituted a process to make sure that those people were removed through due process. Then they brought in the NPP people to take over.
Sorry, I almost called you Matt. Sorry, Samson. You have said that they have gone through due process. Is that not the case? If due process is gone through, now it becomes a political question. Okay. Now, I'm glad that you have read the Honorable Majority Leader's letter. In fact, I think you put it up there. Do you see that is a political action. And so even the language and the letter is not, because that's the same thing the former vice president would do, appealing that because of this and that. That's a political thing. That you cannot approach the president and just speak to him because you want to achieve a political result, isn't it? So you have to appeal to you have to stroke, like we do in court. You stroke the judge's ego and you do all that. That is the bottom line is that this is wrong. What is wrong is wrong.
Okay. Dr. Theo Champong, thank you for joining us. Tell us what you think about what is going on and whether you will join Dr. Bawumia's appeal to President Mahama to withdraw Julius Debra's, letter generally removing too many people. In the fire service alone, I'm told about 3,000 people, they went through the due process and were recruited in, when was that? They were recruited in December of 2023. Hello, Doc.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Doc.
Yes. Good morning. My apologies. I'm not on video today due to other reasons.
That's okay.
But look, I've just been listening to the input from my brother Kingsley and then from Uncle Sam and the other lady there whom I didn't hear earlier. But, I was just laughing here because at the latter part of your conversation, you put very interesting questions to Kingsley, right? That, well, we've seen this thing happen before in 2016, and you can go back to earlier periods where immediately on the resumption of a new government, certain caliber of appointees, whether they are in the civil or whether they are in the public service, are asked to sort of either step aside or they will say, okay, we're going to do some investigations, etc. And then after that, we may decide to call you or not. And I think for me, and this has happened regardless of the fact that they went through quote unquote, right, due process. And the question that you were really asking for me goes to the heart of the whole duplicitous nature of our politics. If we had reversed this 4 years or even 8 years ago, and I'm sure we can go back to old Newsfile and other tapes where similar discussions and conversations were being had here, except that the roles were changed, right? On the other side, you would have had NDC and MPP, and the same arguments would have been made that, these things are not fair and we have to go through and do the right thing and all of that. And it goes, for me, I'm looking at it really from the impact on the public payroll, one, and then I would also speak about it in terms of, what we should be doing, right, going forward. Nobody denies that we need more doctors, we need more teachers, we need more civil servants, so to say, right? But then they also have to go through a certain process in terms of those appointment. But in the context of an IMF program that we're running, and you look at the expenditure items that the government has, after paying off your debt or servicing your debt, the next biggest item on there is the emolument and salaries, right? And you would have to do something in terms of trimming, but also in terms of ensuring that there's efficiency savings within that. I am personally not for the whole mass targeting or the mass letter, but I can understand the logic behind that, especially when after the 7th of December, it looks often as though, you can even go back to earlier administrations, the governments then are in a rush to quote unquote regularize certain appointments that they should have done much earlier. That's right. Because suddenly they are going out of power. And there are some people that we should have actually maybe 6 months earlier, maybe a year earlier, giving them proper employment contracts and all of that. And so there's this panic to ensure that those people have those appointments. And you have a process then that these all add up or cascades and have an impact on the payroll. So I think then what ought to be done for me, first thing, is it needs a more nuanced and a more targeted approach. The whole mass approach perhaps doesn't work. So for sure, we need an audit of all these appointments. I would even probably even extend it to 2 months even before the election and not just after 7th of December, right? That's the first thing. I also then think that in the context of that audit, we need to be very sure that every one of those people that have been employed, quote and unquote, went through that due process, financial clearance, authorization, all of those things, right? Ultimately, what will happen is that some people would be re-employed back and some would not be, employed back. I got a letter or an email yesterday from, I think it was and they were complaining hard. Some of them,
we had a little,
went through,
Doc, we had a little difficulty with your line.
Sorry.
You said you got a letter from who?
Okay, so there's an email that I got from newly posted teachers.
Yes, we got it.
They
we
were
have it.
complaining. Oh, you have it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, they're saying that, well, they went through all the due processes and all of that. And this started as far back as a couple of months before. And therefore, the letter asking for the revocation and the subsequent revocation perhaps comes across as being a bit, unfair. I think then what we need, right, again, going back is we need some certain timelines. By what time do we expect, one, the auditing that is going on to be completed, and so these people to have a certain sense of assurance or certainty that, for example, by the end of March or April, we know we've completed a process and you can either reapply or you don't even need to reapply. You just come and start from where you are or where you left off right from.
Right.
But the other point that I also wanted to really make, which again I was really laughing at, is we need to change the laws within the country. People say that of course the government runs until the midnight of the 6th of the 7th of is it 6th of January?
Yes, that's so.
When the new government takes over. I think that for certain caliber of appointments, I would argue that the laws somewhat be amended so we put a limit that 2 months before the expiration of the term of a government, you cannot recruit into certain categories of within the public or even the civil service.
Doc,
number two,
what
it would have to.
What happened to common sense and reasonability? Must our lives be regulated by law every inch?
Oh, but Samson, our people and what we are dealing with in terms of the political economy.
They will still abuse it. If you tell them that don't make appointment or recruitment 2 months to elections, they will plan all of it and do it perhaps 4 months before.
No, but at least you are certain and you're sure that they are not rushing to do or regularize things that they should have done hitherto, right? One. Number two, you also would be certain or sure that the potential impact on the public payroll, right, would have all been costed within the relevant financial or fiscal architecture of the country. And that is a very important point.
Okay.
Now all these new appointments that have been made, you have to cost it. They have to be put on the payroll. It's going to have an impact. And when you have limited revenues and other expenditure line items that you have to deal with, it can be a major problem for us. So I think for me, I'm for the auditing. And the auditing is the first step. But a more nuanced approach, a targeted approach, is needed rather than the mass dismissal.
In a minute, tell me this: during the transition, the incoming administration flagged this issue, actually issued a statement, and then the outgoing administration also issued a statement calling their bluff and saying that we are in government until midnight, the 6th of January. Do you think they should have listened at that point at least?
Oh, they were all playing politics. That's the the reality, right? And you and I actually know that these recruitments, these appointments, some new ones or new letters were being done or issued post December 2017, right? And some last minute appointments were being made. You see, we're even talking about the teachers and all of that. But I'm sure if you go into some of the state-owned enterprises, and these are governed by slightly different laws, because some of them have their own laws that are set up.
Right.
I won't be shocked if after the audit we find that there are even new names that have been added to certain payroll than hitherto was the case.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Theo Champong. Let me come back here for a minute each of some responses and reactions. Begin with you again, Rodalyn. So, I don't know. What do you have to say? I saw you writing, making notes.
All that we've said here this morning are normal things that are expected of us. But we do know that what is out there is abnormal. What we've been living with for the past 8 years has been abnormal. We are in this country. It's not like we're strangers. We hear, we listen. People tell us. You know very well that some people get their jobs not because they are qualified, but because they know somebody. And how come it is that it's always the political elites who have their children and their siblings and their whatever in GRA, GNPC, what? Look at the list. If you want, go and look at the list. Very high profile jobs. And at the end of it, those are the jobs that are being given last minute. What does that tell you? We should not sit back and look at the situation and think that because this is the norm. Look, the Constitution is there for us to follow. That same Constitution was written. Sometimes I tell myself, I said the Constitution is not bad. It is the people who have been empowered by that Constitution who do not use their common sense. That is bad. And they make the Constitution to be bad. And so if you have the power to elect people, or you have the power to promote people, and because you feel that you have the power, you just go promoting without sitting back to see the repercussions that those promotions are going to bring. That is what happens. We were in this country. Our president jumped a senior military officer. 2 intakes or 3 intakes were left behind because he wanted a particular person to be the chief of army staff. Do you know what happened to the rest of the army people who were there? The kinds of confusion that particular thing happened. He's going away. Then he makes them again 4-star generals. Ask yourself, Ghana, as we sit, are we prepared for those kinds of things? A 4-star general, a 3-star general. You are giving that position to an incoming government. And you know very well that we are in serious trouble. We are in debt. We cannot even pay our debts. Why is it that simple common sense could not advise us that we are leaving? So, if we have a list of people we want to employ, and we have gone through and seen that His Excellency John Mahama has won, the NDC is saying they are coming with 60 ministers and they are going to collapse ministries.
But by 7th December, they didn't know they were leaving.
By 7th December?
Before 7th December, they didn't know they were leaving. You say that they ought to know that they are leaving, so they don't do certain things.
But Nanado's tenure of office
keep on coming
was
up
there at the end, 7th December. Whether he was going to come back or not is no question. It was either going to be Bawumia or Mahama. But Nanado, as a person, was not going to come back again. He should have left whatever it was for either Bawumia to come and do it or for Mahama to come and do it. But
so again, I ask the question, should the president be issuing a directive for all these institutions? Because I doubt that the president will know that all these small institutions around are making, recruitments.
A good president must be briefed and must know what is happening.
Everywhere.
You must have your ears everywhere. Or at least...
Is that not saddling the president with too much?
I don't think so. The president is able to go to 275 constituencies. Now it's 276. He talks to everybody. So why will this one be too much for him. He should be able to handle it. And you see, when you say we should avoid political retaliation goes hand in hand with loyalty to the ruling government in view of their policies and programs. But we are in this country. Even now, as I said, as I was coming, there was somebody on a social media handle. Oh, and then John Mahama has taken 1 billion and we don't know what he has done with it. Within 40 days of a government coming in power. We cannot continue to sit back and pretend that this country is so polarized, that we have the NDC, the MPP, and because of all these things, whatever happens, at the end of the day, it is people that we are dealing with.
You are simply saying what has happened.
What has happened?
The MPP government brought it upon itself, what the president is doing is correct. It's okay.
That's what I am saying. I'm saying that even from where I sit, I am saying, and listening to all, look, we've been on programs, we've read, some people do not deserve to be where they are. And the only way to fish them out is to ask them to leave so that you look through the books and they reapply.
Okay. Well,
I am very saddened that my good brother, Techi Benson, is the one whose appointment is on the screen. Termination is on the screen. Because Techi Benson himself knew how he was employed at MPRA. And that there were people occupying his position before he came there. And he knows how he was employed.
How was he employed?
It's not a subject matter of discussion.
But you were
the head of that institution at a certain point. What's the point?
All I can say is that somebody was there before he came after Nanado's employment. So
Nanado's election.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. So I'm saddened that he has put himself into this box.
Are the political organizations criminal organizations? People shouldn't join them.
Samson, I mean, this one, you are overreaching. How can you describe the political organizations as criminal? You know, people join...
So what is anybody's crime if they join a party?
There's nothing wrong. So that's why...
They simply shouldn't lose power.
That's why I'm sad. That's why I'm sad that you are calling us criminals. Because you know that I'm not a criminal, Sam. Sam, you know that I'm not a criminal. The issue is that everybody joins a political party with an aspiration. You understand? That, being a social democrat, if I follow John Mahama, I'll be able to be in his government to support his agenda. That's why we join political parties. Now, you, 6 months or 3 months before, were opposing his vision. You were employed by the forceful removal of some person, the same table you are going to sit on. Now they do it to you. You know, Samson, I know your fancy is not good. And you are dealing with Techi Benson, isn't it? But there's a fancy proverb that says, Abaya wodi bo Techi, wodi boba. So what you are saying?
Yo, what's boba?
What's the Boba?
Them ban over here. Them ban over here. Them ban over here.
You see, why you see that?
You know that most of these people, if they take suits, they will be vindicated by the courts to the effect that there has been a regular process of recruitment and they have been recruited. They'll be vindicated by the court. But you and I know that the courts will often not say you are reinstated. In certain situations, you are reinstated because even if you get to be reinstated, you yourself, you will not be comfortable at the workplace because of what has happened to you.
That's another matter for
So once again, I'm coming back to this.
Yes.
Afenyo-Markin acknowledges this and the fact that a court case can delay for so long, and maybe by the time the court says you are right, like it happened to Domelevo, it was too late. Should the president, please look inside yourself again. Should the president not reset properly by saying, all of you stay at post?
Fortunately, I'm not the president. The president who has the right to take the decision has taken it.
The president listens to you people.
He has, but he has taken the decision and given some window of opportunity for people to do what they have to do. You see?
So help me understand this.
Yes.
If the recruitment process is reopened, if it is ever reopened, is it the suggestion that those people who have been dismissed will be given the first right of application and consideration, and perhaps that the process of vetting and so on may be waived for them?
We have constructed a bridge. Now they have to come and cross. And I know what you are saying when people go through the process. You are lawyers. We are lawyers. We are there to support them. So I am not going to bastardize a government decision that I understand has good rationale. You know, you are sitting here. You are quoting me. 7th May 2017, 13,000 workers. Bam.
Did you bastardize that?
Me.
Did you condemn that?
You know me, I don't talk.
You did.
Did you hear me?
Yes, you did.
Yes, if I did. You see, Samson, let me retract. You remember Professor Moss? Professor Moss.
Correct.
He sat and said, no, this cycle must be broken. But once there's a cycle, it means that there's a starting point. Right? Get people to be doing this and that. But the results, we all saw it. The result. This country is being run on votes.
The claim is that President Mills broke that cycle,
Yes.
but
MP
it was not reciprocated.
MPP reinstated it.
Therefore, it must continue.
Wow, Samson, you see, what if it is done to you, you will not like, you don't do to others. And when it is done to you, then you start complaining. That's not the logic of culture.
But you are preaching that right now, that karma is justice. Karma is injustice.
Well, I have not said karma is justice. But what I'm saying is this. Somebody tried to break the jinx. You came, you reinstated it. And why is it that if it's against MPP, then the constitution has been broken? If it's against MPP, then something is wrong.
Okay.
This Tejibasin.
Are you sure? Are you sure that if the MPP comes to power, this will not happen again?
Samson, let me say two things. One is that the gentleman, Techi Benson, wants you to call him now to react to something he said. I don't know if you allow that. Secondly, you haven't been able to establish that someone was removed for Techi Benson to get a job. You haven't been able to establish that. Two, you were talking about promotions rather than employment. Two different things.
Me.
No, my very beautiful.
And those that were labeled as casual staff, and then once you are going away, you make them permanent. That's what she was talking about.
No, she's talking about promotion from 3-star to 4-star.
How was the final?
Right. That's a different discussion we'll have together. Ghana hasn't had 4-star general for some time.
Never.
When we were talking about issues, Ghana's population was how many? What is the reason for Nigerians having 4-star generals and we not having it? It's not population.
276.
Yes, but it's not population.
300 million.
So why is the Americans have 5-star general and other countries do not have? Isn't it because of so there has to be a reason for that, and probably we have to interrogate that reason and then see whether it's right or wrong. But here we talk about employment and the fact that a line has been drawn, and then you ask a very poignant question that would there be a waiver for the people? What are we waiving? He's gone through the process. He's ticked all the boxes. He's been employed. You can't say, come and let's do the same thing again. At whose expense? The state's expense. We're going to call someone else. At his expense. Look at the emotional trauma and all that he's going through. So I don't even want us to discuss party colors. It's the fact that the right thing must be done.
Yeah.
What's the right thing?
If
the
the
right thing is...
If the MPP comes to power, these things will not recur.
I am saying the right thing must be
We
done.
know that the template
Precisely.
the template is always what it is.
Why are you getting me to transport myself to 2028 when we are sure we are coming? And say that not knowing who is going to be our flag bearer, don't know who is going to be the president. When he comes, this is what is in his mind.
The party must.
What I'm saying that, yeah, but then the party is saying that this is wrong. That's all.
Principle.
Yes, the party is saying this is wrong.
Ask the
And so if the party is wrong,
don't dance around the question.
Okay, so Kingsley, let me put it this way. Kingsley, will you condemn it if the NPP comes to power and these things happen again? Will you condemn it?
Yes. Would you?
I will not discuss something that is okay in the future. That is not the proper question to
I want to know what your principles are.
My principles are what is wrong. I've already said that.
You said if it happened yesterday, it should not be repeated today.
Precisely. We shouldn't go to 1969.
So if NPP wins power, this will not be repeated. If it is repeated, you will condemn it.
I am saying what is wrong.
You heard my question.
I've answered your question. You cannot be.
Okay.
You cannot be.
So let me read some messages.
You cannot be putting me in a box and say that comment on what will happen in the next 4 years.
Right. Let me read some messages. We take a break.
Based on the mistakes they already do.
And when we return, we go to Parliament briefly.
No, you are not being hypocrite. You are not being hypocrite.
Galamsey. Gentlemen, thank you. This is from Kwame. Kwame says that the NDC and the Mills allowed people to stay in post after he took power. For me, that was where we should have progressed from to fix this. In 2017, all that progress was lost with the MPP sacking. How do we think the NDC partisans will behave if President Mahama goes down that route? The only way forward is to fix this through the constitutional review process. Yes. Another one from Kofi Bentel. The first one was by Kwame Sapong Esiedu Sapong. Kofi Bentel says, you can say it was not wrong to make the last minute appointment, but the opposite is also true. As a human resource management and legal issue, it is entirely lawful for people on probation to resign or be sacked without notice. So those who had not served probation may be sacked lawfully. On morality, you don't saddle another with unfair burdens you didn't accept during your term.
Thank you.
On politics, revoking these appointments is not unreasonable. Accepting these appointments can derail the incoming government's program. They won, so let them have the room to operate. I sincerely don't think those in probation will win in court. I disagree with the NPP. Okay, so that's Kofi Bentel. Kofi, and I have said it elsewhere, and I didn't say it with a negative mind. I was saying that immediately the dismissals were happening, I got a call. I actually got called by the leadership of the NPP at the very top. And because some of them know that when they came, they caused NDC people to suffer, and I represented the NDC people. And before I had represented the NDC people, I had also represented MPP people who had also been sacked by the NDC government. And so I was called and told that you have experience in this area. Please stand ready and take up this matter for us. That's all I was saying. And I was saying the lesson they have to learn as leaders is not to occasion these things in the first place. So we have more messages, but I'm being asked to take a break. When we return, I'll read some of your messages. And then we will go to Parliament about the MP who has been convicted of contempt, very briefly, and also go to the matter of 44 of our forest reserves that has been lost to Galamsey.
In the case of Akwatia, the clerk to Parliament was served a process on the 3rd of January 2025 with an order of interim injunction.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's the most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. And my guest in the studio, Rodelyn Imoru Ayana, is a public interest advocate. Dr. Theo Echampong is economist and political risk analyst. He joins us via Zoom. Kingsley Amwakwa Bwedu is legal practitioner. Amwakwa Bwedu is legal practitioner and member of the legal directorate of the NPP. Sampi Yale, ambassador, president, Professionals Forum, NDC. I read some of your messages before we go to Parliament. Robson says, if you are not recruited through the right means, you will have to be sacked. They just have to audit the recruitment process and keep those who were recruited through the right means, especially the teachers and healthcare practitioners. Wura B says, let me say it here once again. He rushed into this mass termination. He could have constitutionally sacked them after auditing their documents. What he did is unconstitutional and affected people must be recalled as soon as possible. This approach is uncalled for. Reinstate all. Abochi says, no, I think there is supposed to be a target audience. Some of us were engaged as far back as September. So he's saying this thing is, there's some people who have been targeted and they have become victims of the targeting that has gone on. Bright Bell says, imagine you have a new MD and before the old one leaves, all pending promotions for the past years have all been granted, and to have matters worse, the old MD engaged in last-minute recruitment without money. Ahmed Mubarak says they agreed to no last-minute recruitment during the transition meetings, only to do this for the public sentiment. Besides, they had 8 years to do this. Why now? How do you employ all at the twilight of your office, knowing the problems there? By the time they were agreeing at the transition, as you can see, most of this recruitment had already been done. Can we not use the partisanship to cloud all of what is going on? Joseph Okulu says, this is not a mass sacking, but rather a revocation of mass appointments. For it is to be considered a mass sacking, those individuals would need to have been on the payroll of the government. Charles Jemfi says some of these people voted for the NDC in the elections. The teachers and nurses among them should have been maintained. It's very unfair since they are all Ghanaians. This is an indication that the government will employ few people and mostly his guys will be considered. Well, there are other people who are also telling you that they also suffered the same thing as nurses or teachers before. Okay, so Techi, Richard Techi Mensah who has suffered the termination of his employment, which even though it was 2023 from the NPRA, he says that please nobody was sacked for me to be at the NPRA. Stanley Ogoy was the Takrade manager and got transferred to the headquarters in Accra. Then I was recruited as a manager to replace him at Takrade. I was first employed as a contract staff in 1st March 2023, went through public service commission interview and got employed as a full staff in August of 2023, served a probation period for 6 months and confirmed as a full staff in February of 2024. Okay, thank you for your message as well. This one says, okay, I think that will be enough for now. There are a lot of them. You have to pardon me. Okay, Suleiman Alhaj Suleiman says that truly, truly, both NPP and NDC annoy me with their stinking hypocrisy. And this is an NPP person, true and true. It appears both parties are not willing to admit we need to solve this embarrassing cycle of recruitment and dismissals. This dishonest behavior is what has affected aspects of our national life, leading to despicable levels of underdevelopment. When is anybody in the two parties going to rise above partisanship and put Ghana first? Let's pass a law to prevent recruitment and dismissals based on a set of criteria. Have conscience, MPP and NDC. I actually have a number of MPP people who are also saying that MPP should take its time and go on an apology tour and apologize to Ghanaians for having done some of these things in the past and now seeking to advocate around the same thing. Musa Abatua in Asawase says that Ambassador Sampi Yale's presentation makes it clear that proper procedure was bypassed in these appointments. Remember, when you led Ghanaians to court after the Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government revoked appointments, only for the court to uphold the government's decision, giving that legal review validated that move, what credibility remains for calling to reinstate these questionable political appointments. Okay, so sorry. For those of you that I'm not able to read your messages, let's continue. Let's go to Parliament, because there's one MP who is in trouble, very deep trouble. But the NPP tells him not to worry, because they will protect him, and that because he's been dealt with by a judge who has been biased from day one. You listen to the NPP press conference and you ask yourself, am I still in the NPP regime with an NDC people doing a press conference lambasting judges the way they did? Listen to them.
Ghana's democracy thrives on fairness, the rule of law, and the principles of justice. The actions taken against Honorable Ernest Yaokumi threaten not only his rights, but also the very foundation of our democratic processes and principles. The judicial system must not be weaponized to serve partisan interest or undermine the will of the people of Akwatia. We call on all well-meaning Ghanaians, civil society organizations, and the relevant authorities to ensure that justice prevails. The law must be applied fairly, and due process must be respected. Any attempt to subvert the democratic will of the people through judicial overreach must be resisted. Ghana's democracy is bigger than any individual or institution. It is our collective duty to safeguard it, whatever steps. When you are dealing with someone who can now be termed a biased judge and you are not too sure of what he stands to do next, you don't share your strategies out. So let's keep our weapons under our little carpet, and then we would release them as and when. That a contempt matter is a quasi-criminal matter, claiming that the lawyer should have filed an appearance. When somebody came to you earlier, you allowed the person to open the phone to give you details of a certain WhatsApp or a certain publication. But a lawyer comes to stand in for a client in a contempt matter. You are asking the lawyer to file an appearance in a quasi-criminal matter. Hey, Justice Senor Amedehe. At this stage, let me state further that legal steps have been taken. A notice of appeal has been filed against the ruling of the High Court at the Court of Appeal. An application for stay of execution pending appeal has also been filed at the High Court, number 3, Koforidua. Moreover, all the parties to the certiorari and prohibition application, including the judge, His Lordship Justice Emmanuel Senor Amedehe, who is the respondent to this application before the Supreme Court, have been duly served. Further legal steps would be taken, and the minority caucus in Parliament will address the Ghanaian public on the way forward.
The maker of the statement has been convicted by a high court. Convicted by a high court. I have read it in the papers. I have read it on social media. And he wants to come and stand in this chamber and make statements so that this house will be telling the courts that it doesn't matter what you do. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't uphold the dignity and honor of this house. Very respectfully, Mr. Speaker, Parliament does not dabble in ake. Yes, say, yes, say. Parliament does not dabble in ake. Yes, say, yes, say. Mr. Speaker, unless there is notice, very respectfully, what has been brought before you, Mr. Speaker, would seem to be ake. Yes, say, yes, say. There is a stay of execution application. A stay of execution. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, let me also inform this House that prior to the High Court coming up with that decision, the High Court was again seized with the application invoking the supervisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court on its conduct. This house, the information before this house is that the honorable member for Akwatia has been convicted. And he's become a fugitive of justice. An arrest warrant has been issued, properly issued, for his arrest. That this house cannot gloss over the issuance of an arrest warrant for him, and I still permit him. Yes, you cannot tolerate. You wouldn't allow me, I will go ahead, suspend the house, and you will not adjourn the house, Mr. Speaker. They want an adjournment. We would argue the case today. We will argue no adjournment, Mr. Speaker. We will argue. Let us argue the issues with the adjournment. Honorable members, you are running away. You brought your application. You are running away. Honorable members, your application. You are running away. The time is 5 to 4 o'clock. You are in my hands. The house is accordingly adjourned.
All right, so we'll be very quick about this. And yesterday, that was in Parliament, the member who has been convicted for contempt of court for disobeying an injunction order and allowing himself to be sworn in when the injunction order said he should not present himself as such and should not allow himself to be sworn in as a member of Parliament for Akwatia. He wanted to make a statement on the floor, and that led to all of that you saw, and the Speaker swiftly adjourned the proceedings. Let's, on this one, begin with Kingsley. And I said earlier, I was listening to the press conference, and I was asking myself, am I listening to some NDC MPs? Or I'm listening to MPP MPs who were always against the NDC MPs for lambasting the court. And the judge really suffered at the hands of the MPP at the press conference.
Yes, your question is?
Yeah, so what's going on?
Sorry?
What's going on? He's been convicted of contempt of court, and there's a warrant for his arrest so that he will be sentenced. Either he's going to jail or he's going to be giving a fine. We don't know.
Right. Thank you once again. You know that the courtroom is where we make our living, and we will not in any shape or form do anything to denigrate the authority of the court or impede justice delivery of same. We also know that once the court has gone ahead to convict, there are steps we have to take, okay? And one of the steps taken is to file processes. We have, in fact, and I strongly believe that the judge erred in the decision he's made. I strongly believe that. And I do so, I'm choosing my words advisedly because I've been on several platforms to say that we should not bring the judiciary into the political space. They are there to do their job. And they are bound to make mistakes. If they do, we have to follow their due process. And that's what we're doing. And so we filed processes, stay of execution, stay of proceedings, a certiorari application at the High Court, at the Supreme Court, and all that. And I know I am convinced of the grounds for each one of them. Okay. And I'm talking as a senior lawyer, where you must make sure you don't, when it's sub judice, you don't, prejudice the matter. All right. So I'll say that I'm convinced of the grounds. All right. We leave it to their lordships to come with the seasoned reasoning. Now, before we came in, my senior brother was saying we've had 7-1. 7-0. And now that you've had 1-0, you're making all this noise.
What does that mean?
It's laughable because, you see...
Well, you can't even have private conversation.
No. I choose... I'm choosing the ones that I can comment on. It's not everything that we said that's out there. All right? But I think each case is different. All right? Each case is different. And on this, where the judge has said that he has notice of a gazetting in a social media space, and therefore the election has been gazetted, so he's going ahead to entertain that petition alone, I have issues with. Because we know this. LI 2127 says that 21 days after gazetting, you have between the gazetting and 21 days after that to bring a petition. The originating action in this matter is a petition. It's different from the ones that went to...
At the time, there was no gazette.
There's no gazette. So, everything has been built on this. Every other thing, whether contempt, whether it's built on this thing. So that in itself is so wrong. How do you entertain such a matter before your court? And then when you make a comment that you have taken judicial notice of a gazette, the fact of whether or not there's a gazetting should be, you should be able to make a search at the relevant court, as the EC, the publishers, Ghana Publishers.
The judge should do that?
No. The fact that is not so, that is not done, means that there's not been gazetting. You cannot say that you take a judicial notice because it was in the public domain, it was social media.
Explain to my audience now, what you are saying is that this case, which was mounted by Boakye Yadom of the NDC, who garnered 17,000 votes as against Ernest Kumi's 19,000 votes.
Yes.
He went to court at a time, in Koforidua, at a time when the law did not allow him to go to court on a petition, parliamentary election petition.
Precisely.
Because the law, Representation of the People's Law, says an election petition must be brought within 21 days of a gazette of that election. At the time he went to the court, there was no gazette.
Precisely.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
But the judge held that he had power, or the court had power to continue with the case.
Precisely.
Yeah, but the judge referred to certain cases that suggested that perhaps a gazette may not be necessary, and that position has to be overturned by a higher court. Other than that, what the judge is doing is proper.
Okay. You see, as I put it, I disagree vehemently with what the judge is saying. Because it's sub judice, you cannot go into the nitty-gritties of it.
No, these parts have already been dealt with.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
So they are not
everything is based on this, whether or not.
The injunction that was given was based on this process, which you say is flawed.
It is flawed.
Therefore, it was okay for him to defy the injunction?
You see, no. I mean, we all know what the legal basis is. When the court gives a decision, and whether or not you agree with it or not, you cannot. Otherwise, in itself, you're in contempt of court.
And Gary is his lawyer, right?
Exactly.
And Gary has sat on this platform and joined me in repeating to the politicians that the principle and the rule is that even if a judgment is wrong, however bad it is, you cannot disobey it. You must use due process to set it aside, correct? So if an injunction has been granted on the back of a flawed decision, do you disregard it?
You are interrupting my flow.
Please go on.
And in doing
I pause. Please go on.
You are assuming that I am in the box and you're cross-examining me.
No, please.
That's why you had to...
Please go on.
Anyway, correct and whatnot. Samson. I'm sounding...
You are too bad.
Samson, I am sounding a note of caution to you. You understand what I'm saying?
I respected it. Please go on.
You understand what I'm saying?
Go on.
Okay. So, everything is premised on this. And one of the surprising features of it is that whereas the judge of first instance is ready, because you see, contempt is not against him in person, it's against the whole justice system. Whereas he is ready to protect that, he seemed to also be ignoring the matters that have been filed at the higher court, which have been placed before him. So in one breath, you are hurriedly trying to say that you cannot disrespect them. But you also, by the rules of stare decisis and whatnot, you also seem to be ignoring. And in doing so, as a sitting judge, I think that is not proper. You cannot, because a process has been filed. All right, there's been appeal, there's been certiorari, there's all that are here. And you still go ahead. And then to end it all, you say that even though it's a quasi-criminal matter, his lawyer should have entered appearance on that quasi-criminal matter. I think all these are, it doesn't augur well. So the application for prohibition, I think, is well grounded. So that, you see, we must
There's an application at the Supreme Court,
yes,
to stop this judge,
yes,
from continuing to sit on this case because he's exhibited bias.
I unfortunately do the lingo, and then you break it down for the public. I think I must be cognizant of that. But that's the case, that we think that because he's in a hurry to do what he's meant to do, when there are several other processes which has been brought to the attention of the court, some of them serve on the registrar has placed it on a docket, then another judge can take over. We still are looking at protecting the judicial process.
Is it the normal process that once you have filed the process against, so he went to file the injunction and he didn't win. He was hoping to win that one, he didn't win. If he had won it, it would have been okay. But because he lost it, then he filed processes upstairs.
Yes.
And those processes, you say, have been brought to the attention of the judge. So the judge should not have entertained a contempt application against the MP.
Precisely.
Okay, so is it the normal thing in court that once you have filed the process against another, a trial judge cannot go on simply because they have seen that you have filed an appeal or something?
Not just an appeal. You have a stay of proceedings. before you, the judge. All right. The return date is, I think, the 26th of February. Whatever you're doing makes that moot, isn't it? So why do you go ahead? That's the issue.
So
without going to the nitty-gritty of it.
Because
why do you take
he has
steps?
tried to stop the judge from continuing with whatever he was doing.
Yes.
And he has this application that is trying to stop the judge, and the judge is supposed to hear that application on the 26th of February.
Exactly.
Your case is that the judge should not have gone ahead with the contempt process.
Because the same judge
convicted
who
him.
will hear this application is being brought, the return date is the 26th of February.
Okay.
Why do you go ahead? The thing that is supposed to arrest what you are doing, even that there's another application for arresting of the ruling before you yourself. You still go ahead.
That application is also not matured yet.
Yes.
To be heard.
Yes.
Why were they not filed to be heard earlier than the contempt application?
That is to touch on the strategy of the council. We know we don't get into.
So in your practice and your knowledge of the law,
yes,
the fact of the filing of these processes, which are trying to stop the judge from continuing, do they in fact stop the judge from going ahead with the contempt matter?
If a matter is before a judge, it's about to give his ruling, and they have brought an application that goes to the root of everything that commends the same action, the judge is bound to listen to. There are several instances where I've been to court where, for instance, the last time I filed, there was an injunction that I set aside. Then they brought another injunction application on the same fast, nothing new. I quickly filed affidavit in opposition, went to court. I was short-served. I waived my right. The judge said, no, I don't want to give a bench ruling on this. So we take it, and it was, I think, the 31st of July.
So that's the judge's discretion.
Exactly. But I'm saying that is what the judge is supposed to do.
If the judge had gone ahead, would he have been wrong?
He had gone ahead to do what?
Where you were waiving your rights,
yes,
and the judge said, I don't want you to waive it, so we'll give you time.
Yes.
If the judge had gone ahead,
yeah, but remember in this case, the return date was that date. What we are discussing, the return date is 26. When is 26? This Tuesday, isn't it? Or Wednesday, I think. So why can't you? It's Wednesday. Why can't you just abide it so that you do what you? Because at the end of the day, contempt. Remember, there's no act concerning contempt of court. Constitution Article 19 says that a crime must be defined with the elements of one was and the punishment attached to it. The very next step, he said, it doesn't stop the court for committing to themselves contempt, which means it's discretionary. All right. So we've given a huge powers to the judiciary or to the judges. But in decisions that have arrived, you're either talking about the conduct, we talk about ex parte cito and federal and all that, a conduct of an alleged contempt that the court can rule on, or an order served on someone brought to his notice that he flouts willfully.
The clerk to Parliament, and we played him a while ago. The injunction process was on the 6th, yes, and they were sworn in on the 7th. And the clerk was saying, I have this process from the court. It says you have been injuncted. The minority said, please don't allow yourself to be sworn in. The majority says so. The minority said, go ahead and swear him in.
Coming from the majority now, it's rich, isn't it? Very rich.
Yes,
Judge Christian. Very rich.
You see,
I would not say anything that impedes judicial process, that limits the powers of the court, because that is what we all subscribe to bring order. All right. But it does not also preclude the MP. In fact, I've heard people saying that he should actually now resign from an MP or not. And how can others even touch on that? It's a contempt matter. The fact of the matter is what we've laid down. The originating summons itself is flawed. And it's been brought to your attention. So decide on that whether or not. We've gone up, appeal court, we've gone to Supreme Court, and you still go ahead and do it. Then you should be prohibited.
If you have gone to appeal or done some things, and there is an injunction, will you defy it?
We've gone around it.
Okay. Why don't you also wait for those to be decided before you.
No, but all those
yourself to be sworn
all
in?
those are happening after.
Okay.
After the act.
Okay.
All those are happening after the seventh.
Could this have been avoided?
Ordinarily, I don't like discussing issues of the court and passing judgment on judges when I don't have the full facts. By listening to my colleague panelist, he tried to give the impression that the government of their opposition is based on the fact that the elections had not been gazetted. Before anybody could be registered to enter parliament, the clerk should have received the gazetted report from the Electoral Commission before the person can even be allowed to register. So I'm wondering from where they got this impression that that man, his election had not been gazetted. If his election had not been gazetted, how did he find himself in parliament?
No, yeah. I need to come in here and make a correction. We're saying that at the time, because you start by...
Can I finish my...
No, I need to correct that so that you don't build...
You're not correcting anything.
You see, the fact is that the instant application, which was an interim injunction, at that time of filing it, there was no gazette. That's the issue. That's the argument. At that time, on the 31st of December, when it was filed, there was no gazetting.
Samson, let me go on my point. I'm saying that before you can even be allowed to register as a parliamentarian, the EC should have written to the clerk of parliament, giving the list of members who have been duly gazetted and gazetted. So I'm finding it difficult to understand why they are hammering on the gazetting. Now, you would also recall when you played what happened in Parliament, that the clerk of Parliament gave a forewarning to
NS
Kumi that please, we have an injunction here on you. I saw that day I was in Parliament. I saw Kumi trying to, as it were, organize himself and leave. But then the minority leader got up, and the conclusion of his submission was that let the man be sworn in and he will face the consequences. You remember? And he will face the consequences. I was thinking that was a very bad advice coming from a lawyer. Because Kumi could not be protected because he's in Parliament. By the fact that we are the minority, we can protect you. No. You see, people, when in politics, Samson, what I've learned is that among the crowd, everybody has his own two legs and one head.
You start to popularity.
All the not gay one, you go home. And if the police want to come and pick you, they come and pick you. You understand what I'm saying? So I thought that
No, the police cannot go into Parliament. They cannot go into the precincts of Parliament to pick anybody because of Article 117, 118.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in my political life, I've learned that when there's a crowd activity, right, everybody has his own two legs. So you have to be careful. Now you go to Parliament and they tell you that there's an injunction filed against you.
Okay, quickly, Bernard Bediako Beidu, the lawyer for the, is it the aggrieved? For the aggrieved candidate, Yadom, is it? Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Bernard.
Thank you, Samson.
Yes, briefly, what's the intervention you want to make?
Okay, so it has to do with a few things that my teacher, the panel member on your show just said. First and foremost, let me say, I think it has been said by other panelists, Mr. Ambassador, that the issue of Gazette is a very interesting one. And something you rightly said, that the court didn't just say it was Gazette, and the court never said that he was relying on social media. In fact, the ruling, I don't know if you've not cited it, I'll send it to you. You know, it's a very simple one. As Mr. Ambassador said, that you need, the Electoral Commission would have to remit the gazetted results to Parliament before they are even ready. The Electoral Commission on the 24th day of December called a press conference and said that they had gazetted 24th. We filed the thing on 31st. Electoral Commission, it's all over. Your Joy FM reported it. The press conference was organized by Bosman Asari. He said they had gazetted 274 MPs. Constituencies, which only excluded Domiko Abinya and then Ablukumano. It meant that Akwatia was included. And they had remitted him to the clerk to Parliament. Now, Regulation 43 of the CI says that when the return officers are done, they are supposed to submit the results to the commission, and the commission would have to gazette it, and soon thereafter remit the writ of election to the speaker. The speaker, the clerk is on record to have said that he received the writ of elections on the 23rd of December, the writ of election, which included that of Akwatia. And the writ of election could not have been sent to him without the gazette notification. So it's a very interesting matter that is coming up. It is either somebody was doing politics or is deliberately hiding something. We based upon that, and you see, look, there is no law that says that in filing the petition, you have to add the hard copy of the gazette notification.
No.
So really, there's no law that says that.
Yeah, it's not required. It's not required.
It's not required.
Yeah.
So you only file and say that indeed it has been done. And when we went to court, we proved to the court that the press conference was done by the EC. It is reported in Ghana News Agency, the official news mouthpiece of the state. We also said that we also exhibited a notice from the clerk to Parliament inviting the members of Parliament to register pursuant to the writ of elections that he had received. And so it was irregular. But you came to court and you sought to step aside and said that the gazette was not done. Something. In our case, we relied on the presumption of regularity because the EC himself had said that they had done it. If you came to court and said it had not been done, that official duty had not been done, the onus was now on you to produce something to show that it had not been done. They came to court without anything.
And the court held that there was no problem with the issue of gazette, also relying on the Collins Dada case. Is that right?
The Collins Dada case and then the ex-party Baba Jamal.
Yeah, because I have read the order of the court of the day.
Absolutely.
All right. So what are your expectations now? Is it true or it is not that the contempt process, whilst it was pending, there had been other processes upstairs, as in Court of Appeal, and even before the same judge, for stay of proceedings, among other things, and the judge simply brushed them aside and went ahead to deal with the contempt and convicted the MP?
Samson, thank you very much for this question. A simple answer to you. Contempt action is quasi-criminal. Look, the suit number for the main action, the main petition, is EI, and note this, that will settle the matter, is EI/04/2025. That is the suit number for the main action. The suit number for the contempt action is EAS/KF/AC/E11/04/2025/CA/22/2025. Different. So you don't file a process on the petition itself, seeking to certiorari on it and a stay of execution and all that. That is in relation to the petition. This is crime. It relates to the petition itself. Contempt is different. So that
is it the case or it is not that an Eskumi's lawyer stood up, at least one person, I understand it's Gary Nimako or so, stood up when you were arguing the contempt application, and the judge insisted that there's no, as it were, filing of a notice to show that he's the lawyer in the matter, therefore he will not be heard. So the judge refused to hear him. Is that the case?
Okay, so that's not what happened exactly. The judge gave 3 different opportunities per what do you call it? Hearing notice to him, to an committee. Of course, you know the order 50 says that you should serve it on him personally, not a lawyer, because it's case are criminal. So we served it on him. He didn't come to court the first time. Instead, Gary brought this issue of bias. Gary had filed an application asking the court to the judge to recuse himself. He said, "How can you come?"
Let's stay right there where you got to first. So he was served and asked to come to court because it's criminal in nature. He was supposed to be in court. He was not there.
Himself. Yes.
So he was not there.
He wasn't twice.
Okay. Was a bench warrant issued for him?
No. He didn't. It's an application. So if you elect not to present yourself, that's why it's not pure criminal. It's quasi.
Okay.
And so it's an application. And so the rules of court, or the CI 47 regulates it, not really the procedure, but the court has the power to proceed without you because you elected not to come. Now the court, I argue, I argue that day no lawyer was in court. It was ruling the day for the ruling of another having not the non-stop. And then I'm sure that was the case that he did. He got up and then addressed after opened laptop and was about to ruling. And then also said he repeated and then said, I don't know you. This is a critical matter. Getting this from the
it's breaking.
Your line is breaking, but don't you agree? One of the points they raise, it's a quasi-criminal, so a lawyer doesn't need to file any process. They can show up.
That is what I'm coming to.
They can show up in court at any time, and they must be heard, right?
Samson, let me say that the judge used the word or the phrase "file appearance" loosely because they had not filed. Gary had not responded to the application on behalf of Kumi. Kumi had not been in court. Samson, we know who a busybody is. How do you come to court when the contempt law is not even there on a crazy criminal matter? You have
so I'm sorry because we don't have time. Tell me this: he's been convicted. There's a warrant for his arrest to face a sentence. Is he being executed?
It is. I have seen processes done by the court. Yesterday, it was moved out to the appropriate courtesses. So we believe at that point, it is not in my hands any longer. It is with the court and then...
How are you going to execute it? He's an MP. If you meet him on the way, he will tell you he's on his way to Parliament. And the law says you cannot arrest him or serve any process on him. If you meet him, if you meet him at a certain point, he can say he's from Parliament to another parliamentary business, or he's from Parliament to home, and you are not supposed to arrest him according to law.
That is so. But Samson, if he is found at a funeral this morning, what will he say?
Maybe he's on his way to a parliamentary process. Okay, please have a good day. Yes, Ambassador, quickly, very quick, and then we hear. Yes.
What I would say is this: you know, it is not quite normal for a member of parliament to be convicted of contempt. If I was part of the MPP, I would have just found some senior members, lawyers, go to court and apologize. After the matter has not...
It's not normal. Ordinary citizens are being slapped with contempt every day. They are being put in jail. An MP is superhuman or is more human than the ordinary Ghanaian.
But I've also known as a lawyer that I've pleaded on behalf of certain people. You know, my whole traditional parliament chief was to be convicted.
Well, they are not choosing that. They have appealed it and they are staying execution. That's their choice.
I'm saying that if I was to advise, this is what I would have said. Look, what happened is not the best. You were warned, but the party urged you on to go to be registered. But I was wondering why they did that. You see, in the Jachir case, his number was very imperative that it should be added to the NDC because it was balanced.
That's so.
But in the case of the MPP, I was wondering how his inclusion could have made any difference. I was wondering how his inclusion would have made any difference. So staying there to vote the speaker, that day they were voting for the speaker.
Well, you want them to go and beg. They are not begging. They are fighting it.
I said,
let's hear Rodeling.
Well, the
yes.
people have spoken. What am I going to say?
Oh, no, you don't.
Well, all I can say is that I did read that 274 members of parliament were gazetted on that day. And they were the ones who were in there to elect a speaker. And so if it's come out now that there was a contempt case against him, and I did also follow when the minority leader said that he was ready to take whatever action was going to be taken against Mr. Kumi, Honorable Kumi. So for me, this issue of contempt, especially when it has to do with members of parliament, we have to look at it again because we can't continue running around trying to catch somebody that is almost impossible to catch. And I also believe that, you know, the judiciary went under a lot of bashing in the previous regime for so many negative things and other reasons. And I'm hoping and praying that this time round, we will give them an opportunity to purge themselves of whatever it was that was being said about them in the previous regime, so that we can have faith once again in our judiciary, because it's very important that all Ghanaians have faith in the judiciary and believe that they are being nationalistic and not partisan or anything. Samson, I don't know, but this MP should find a way to pacify the judge, if possible.
Pacify the judge. Interesting. Well, let me hear from Dr. Tue Champong. Dr. Tue Champong, very briefly, because we need to take a break and come back to our very final issue. We lost Dr. Tue Champong. The job of judging, how difficult, particularly when you're dealing with political matters. When they win, they're happy. When they lose, the judge did the wrong thing. The court is so biased. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's the most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, what we always do is to put Ghana first. My guest, Rodeling Ayana, is public interest advocate. Kingsley Amwakwa Boedu is a lawyer. He teaches the law, and he is with the MPP Legal Directorate. Ambassador Sampiale is President, Professionals Forum of the NDC.
I'm also a lawyer.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Senior lawyer.
Right. And so we move to the matter of Galamsey, but before that, let me tell you that tomorrow, on my favorite show, join me at 2 p.m. on the law, and I'm engaging these two... okay, so they are judges, so there are things I cannot say. What I want to say about judges. I'll join Her Ladyship Justice Efia Sewa Asare-Boche. That's the no-nonsense judge. Justice of the Court of Appeal. And Her Ladyship Justice Lydia Osei Mafo, also Justice of the Court of Appeal. We are talking about reforming the jury system in Ghana. Did you know that you can participate in the judge decision making? Yes, you can, because our law allows you to allow yourself to be chosen as a juror. Then you can sit and determine how a case is decided. Right. So 2 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you very much. We shall take your views on them as well. Now, let's go to our very final issue, which has to do with the comments that came from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister to the effect that out of the 288 forest reserves that we have, a whopping 44 of these forest reserves are under serious attack by illegal mining. And people are very shocked that this is going on. There are those who say they are not shocked because in the Akufo-Addo regime, they allowed for mining in forest reserves, something that ought not have been allowed. So quickly, in the next 8 minutes, how do we deal with that? Yes, Kingsley. How do we win?
I don't think you'll come to me, because now that's the policy of Ambassador Sampiale. So I want to deal with that. And then that's all that. That's how you
we
go
have
about
all
it.
been involved in this anti-Galamsey fight.
Right.
I'm sure I've heard you also, we need to fight it because it's an existential threat. So what do you say? That forest reserves, 44 of them, we are losing to illegal mining?
I think the general public were so vehemently opposed to mining in the forest reserve that even the law that was passed that made mining in the forest reserve legal, it was on its way out when there was a general government. And so this new government should action on that, remove it. But what I heard is not the legal, it says Galamsey, all right, or illegal miners, all right. We all know that there are legal miners and illegal miners. If it's illegal, then there's no legal basis whatsoever, okay? And so you need to take steps rather than bringing it to our attention. I think NDC needs to transition properly from being an opposition party to a party in government. When you are in opposition, you will highlight these and talk about it to create a necessary public aversion against us when we're in power. Now you are in governance. Deal with it, solve it. I'm also not happy about the, and these are information sent me by your producer, but it says, President Mahama says, I don't like the word I urge, because you're in government now. Direct. And even before you direct, the people already are seized with executive power. They must take steps to deal with that. Because it's an illegality. Before we talk about how we'll deal holistically with all these, existential threats to our water body, to our forestry, and there's several things. These are what I teach in class, natural resources. Before we talk about that, whether we're going to use command and control approach throughout, we're going to use negotiation and education approach, we're going to mix it. I am for command and control approach and then mixing it up with education, because South Africa, people were shot and it is still going on. I believe when President Rawlings started, it was the same. People were still coming to it. That's why they made sure that they now regulated it, the small-scale mining industry. And now I've been around those places where people have tasted, the sudden wealth that comes to those who engage it. And so it's going to be difficult to use only command and control approach. Okay? Once you're doing command and control approach, you must have some policies that say, this is how I'm going to deal with this. There's a lot, we lined up a lot in the presidential candidate of MPP in his manifesto. How we're going to do with this, create a bank for that, give them finances. I am sure there was something like that in the NDC manifesto. Now that you have the executive power, operationalize it. If we see that there's some aspect of it that probably we have to discuss it further, then we can talk about it. But now you're saying, do you know that? You want to see, I came to meet this, these are the steps I'm taking to solve it.
All right.
Because you have transitioned, or you should have transitioned by now, from opposition party to government.
Right.
Don't say I urge them to.
So because we don't have time, and I know, and I mean, the public will soon get to know that you have a certain background that you would have brought to bear.
Oh yeah, I've been teaching natural resources and all that for some time.
Right. And you heard the other time when I said that when we spoke about the matter of Galamsey and the forest reserve being eaten into, and we referred to one gentleman, a publication in the Fourth Estate, one gentleman, Francis, who is now in Parliament, that he was
Samson,
the person
Samson, please.
who was helping the people to get their licenses.
Samson, this is wrong. Don't go there. Don't go there. You cannot go there.
Why?
I'm just giving a background of how much information you have. When I was saying that you have sued,
you can say this off. You can't say that.
I've said it already.
It's not right. It is not right.
We are not talking about the case.
The fact that exists should not be said here. No, it's not public. It's not public yet. You are not making it public.
We're not talking about the content. I'm not talking about the content. Okay, thank you. Yes, quickly, we have just about We have run out of time, really.
Yeah, I'm very happy the MPP has taken it upon itself to teach the MPP and NDC how to transition. You see, we are dealing with a matter that has engaged our armed forces. We are dealing with a matter that a president promised his presidency and nothing happened.
Something happened. He was voted into power again.
We are running out of time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Can you then continue?
I'm sorry. In 30 seconds,
yes,
please.
30 seconds. What the minister said, he was just passing, and the pressmen accosted him. And he said, oh, you know what? Since taking office, I have seen this problem. I mean, Samson, if you don't know the problem, how do you tackle it?
Right.
And I don't know why the MPP has taken, you should have done that, you should have done that. You bent excavators, you shot people, nothing happened.
Right.
Let
me give the final 30 seconds to Rodelin. Is it enough just to be telling us that 44 forests are gone?
Enough. I think we must do something about it. And I am with those who feel that we should call a state of emergency and let the military go in there.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Last week, there was a comment by Bryce Simmons about NACO. That's the Narcotics Control Commission. And the Narcotics Control Commission is not excited about the comment. And they are saying that it is not the case that they have not prosecuted even a single case in 3 years. That statement is not correct because they are prosecuting drug offenders and many other offenses every day. And many of these cases are held in open court. So people who want to know should go to the court. They will find out about them. And that the information was not accurate. And people should know that because they may not do it themselves directly, other prosecution people will do it. So it is not the case that is it. And that reminds me of the matter about the memo, that memo about the Attorney General and Godfrey Dame and Ayine going back and forth about it, really. Don't misconstrue and misquote me anywhere. What I said last week was that I have seen what is supposed to be the memo, and there's an email trail. The memo I saw, I asked Justice Ramsay, was not signed, it was not dated, and it was not minuted. There was no minute on it. So it does appear that was a draft memo. I understand that Godfrey Dame saw that particular memo very late in their term, but there is no official memo that came to him that he refused to act on. I did not say that Godfrey Dame bent or shredded any memos. I said that I had been informed that there was a shredding of documents and claims that some documents had also been taken home, away. Thank you very much. This has been Newsfile. It is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as we always do, we put Ghana first. And my guests have been Rodelin Imoro Ayana, public interest advocate. Kingsley Amwakwa-Bwedu is a lawyer and member of the MPP Legal Directorate. He teaches the law as well. Ambassador Sampi Ali is president, the Professionals Forum of the NDC. We also had Dr. Thue Champong joining us as well. You can join me tomorrow, as I said, at 2 p.m. That's my favorite show. Let's talk the law.